A cute pink-haired boy named Lin Dui Dui happily munches on a warm bun. His older sister is suddenly snatched away by a majestic, glowing phoenix in a swirling vortex. Powerful magical sigils erupt as the portal between worlds begins to stabilize. The pink-haired girl stands bewildered amidst drifting golden feathers in a vast starry dimension. A mystical tome bursts with radiant energy, revealing the legend of the ancient firebird. Back in their room, Lin Cao Cao and Dui Du are engrossed in their favorite picture book. Their peaceful reading is interrupted by a group of menacing thugs demanding payment for a debt.
Dui Dui bravely attempts to shield his sister, his face streaked with tears as he cries out.
From the depths of the boy's desperation, a tiny, round yellow chick suddenly manifests. Boom! The small bird unleashes an explosive force, sending the debt collectors flying through the air. Overjoyed by the miraculous rescue, the pink-haired girl cheers with sparkling eyes. The tiny chick transforms into a towering phoenix, gently lifting the girl as Dui Dui reaches out. The storybook describes a magical world populated by beautiful and diverse fairy guardians. Among them is the elegant Fang Huang fairy, standing gracefully amidst a garden of blooming peonies. The children read about the villainous Prince Fan, though the narrator insists he is extremely ugly. The scene shifts to a peaceful meadow of purple flowers where the sister rests. Prince Fan masks his cruel intentions with static electricity while plotting to harm the innocent princess every day. Terrified of the prince's hidden darkness, the young girl flees toward the safety of the distant castle. A framed portrait shows the girl weeping, surrounded by the recurring imagery of the yellow chick. She finds comfort among the small, round spirits of the forest who gather around her. The silver-haired prince watches the other siblings coldly, his ambition stretching far beyond the throne. In another world, two students in uniform stand amidst the peonies, reflecting the fairy world's inhabitants. The sister is depicted as a radiant fairy princess, leading her army of fluffy, round companions. The narrative expands to a magical universe filled with distant stars and shimmering cosmic dust. Countless planets drift through space, each holding unique secrets within the vast galactic expanse. Parallel worlds reflect one another, creating a complex web of interconnected lives and destinies. Both reflecting worlds are introduced as the reverse world, where every action has a cosmic counterpart. Brilliance fades into a soft purple glow as the focus shifts back to the story's history. 6 of the legendary dark fairies are introduced, each possessing unique elemental powers and animal traits. The remaining guardians, including the formidable Fang Huang, stand ready to defend their realm. Fang Huang's fiery wings shimmer as she prepares for the coming conflict. An ancient bird-shaped seal glows intensely, holding back a tide of long-forgotten demonic forces. Dark, shadowy figures emerge from the abyss, threatening the delicate balance of the magical world. Lin Ku Ku questions if the dark fairies in her book are truly just junior guardians. Her hand grazes the page, tracing the vibrant illustrations of the fairies she is reading about. Cuckoo notes the fairies are not cute upon closer inspection and suspects the book has printing errors. The 13-year-old middle school student, Lin Cao Cao, looks deeply into her book's mysteries. Little Lin Dui Dui continues to chew his bun, looking up at his sister with big, curious eyes. Cuckoo promises her brother one last chapter before it is finally time for bed. She looks away thoughtfully, perhaps sensing a strange connection to the story they are sharing. With a tender smile, Cuckoo pats Dui Dui's head as he yawns, nearly asleep. The book describes a tragedy where the queen of the dark fairy is left mortally wounded and sleeping. Prince Fan, revealed as Pan Wang, prepares to sacrifice everything to conquer the human world. He cold-bloodedly forges the queen's secret order to lure the fairies into his grasp. The fairies gather under the cover of purple wisteria, unaware they are walking into a trap. Lightning crashes as Pan Wang's ambush is sprung, trapping the fairies within the temple walls. The guardians realize too late that they have been betrayed by the man they trusted. Feng Huang Fairy collapses, blood staining her lips as she uses her sword for support.
In the ruins of the battlefield, the injured warrior bows her head in quiet, painful resignation.
To save her fallen comrades, Yu Lei Fairy unleashes a desperate burst of power to break the seal. The narrative reveals that other fairies successfully managed to break free from Pan Wang's dark influence. Two elegant fairies are introduced, one possessing a cat-like grace, and the other a disciplined warrior-like spirit. Furious at the betrayal, Pan Wang's glowing purple eyes manifest as he casts a devastating curse. 12 powerful fairies are stripped of their magic and transformed into helpless, floating babies across the cosmos. Lin Ko-ku's hand turns the final page, frustrated by the book's abrupt and unsatisfying conclusion. Cuckoo and Dewey Dewey ponder the story's end, wondering if the villains were ever truly defeated. Excited by his imagination, Dewey Dewey dives onto the bed with a happy shout of wow. The young boy suddenly throws a tantrum, crying that his sister's storytelling is mean and uninteresting.
A strange, rhythmic daughter sound suddenly echoes through the room, catching the startled girl's immediate attention.
Their quiet evening is shattered by a sharp knock-knock sounding against their bedroom door. Heavy blows vibrate against the wood as an angry man outside demands that Royal Wang pay his debt. Terrified, Cuckoo hushes her brother, realizing the debt collectors have finally tracked them down. Little Dwee Dwee squeezes his face tight, trembling with fear as the heavy footsteps draw closer to them. Slammed! The door is kicked open by a scarred, blonde-haired man leading a gang of armed thugs. Trembling, Cuckoo stands protectively before her brother, telling the intruders that their stepfather is not home. The lead debt collector narrows his cold gaze, peering through his glasses at the two vulnerable children. One thug identifies the kids as the stepchildren of Royal Wang's deceased wife, noting their lack of value. The men coldly discuss how their stepfather likely abandoned them, leaving the children to face the consequences alone. Desperate and weeping, Cuckoo shields Dwee Dwee in her arms while begging the men for mercy.
The leader steps forward with a heavy click of his shoes, his expression unreadable as he approaches.
He explains that he has no personal grudge against them. Their stepfather is the true source of pain. Confusion ripples through the thugs as they argue, their heads spinning with the complexity of the situation. The scarred man's face contorts with rage as he blames the children's father for his own misfortunes. A soft hoo-hoo of quiet sobbing escapes the girl as she huddles with her brother in the dark. Dewey Dewey bravely steps forward, stopping the intruders as he shouts for the bad guys to leave his sister alone. The lead debt collector lets out a dismissive, unimpressed by the toddler's display of courage. He casually leans on his baseball bat, mockingly agreeing to spare the girl for the time being. Suddenly, he grabs Dwee Dwee by the shirt, declaring the boy must pay back the debt in place of his father. Cuckoo cries out in disbelief, asking how a mere 3-year-old child could possibly satisfy their demands. Throw! The thug heartlessly dangles the child upside down, and the leader orders the boy to be beaten. The scarred man turns away coldly, deciding that the girl will be sold to cover the remaining debt. As the thug raises his bat, Dwee Dwee screams and Cuckoo desperately begs him to stop. In a moment of total despair, Cuckoo prays for someone to save them from this nightmare. A blinding, celestial radiance suddenly erupts from the floor, overwhelming the room and the terrified debt collectors. From the center of the brilliance, a mystical voice announces its arrival to rescue the siblings. Dui continues to chew his bun while looking at the magical collage of the fairy world. The pink-haired girl is depicted as a radiant fairy princess, surrounded by her loyal, fluffy spirit companions. The voice offers to save the children if Cuckoo agrees to help save their dying world. Overwhelmed by the cosmic choice, the girl weeps as she realizes her life has changed forever. Bathed in a pillar of light, Cuckoo questions if an ordinary girl could ever fulfill such a destiny. A sudden rustle draws her gaze toward the floor, where the storybook begins to pulse with life. The pages of the book fan out, releasing a concentrated beam of golden energy into the room. Cuckoo realizes the strange book she found is the source of this miraculous divine intervention. Her eyes fill with wonder and hope as the golden glow begins to push back the darkness. Under the witness of the stars, a majestic phoenix manifests to seal an eternal contract with the girl. Radiant energy and floating feathers pour from the book, forging an unbreakable bond between fairy and human. The debt collectors recoil in terror, their weapons forgotten as they gaze up at the mythical firebird. Hanging upside down, the confused Dui wonders if his older sister has actually become a bird. The legendary phoenix lets out a piercing cry, spreading its massive wings to protect the two innocent children. A blinding golden radiance engulfs the room, signaling the beginning of a miraculous celestial transformation. The sheer force of the explosion blasts the debt collectors backward through the shattered windows with a pained "Ah!" Amidst the fading light, the Phoenix Fairy reminds the surprised girl of the life-altering promise she just made. The majestic Phoenix Fairy towers over Cuckoo, pleading for her help to save a dying magical world. An exclamation of "ah" escapes the girl as she is pulled into a cosmic vortex, leaving reality behind. Celestial spheres drift through the void as the narrative confirms her destiny to save the world. Little Dui cries out in panic, his hand reaching for a desperate grab as his sister vanishes. Outside, the debt collectors look up in stunned disbelief as they realize they have witnessed real magic. The thugs rush back inside to find the children gone, leaving only the mysterious storybook on the floor. The lead debt collector approaches the fallen book, suspicious of the source of the magical disturbance. His hand reaches down and picks up the tome, sensing it holds the key to the children's disappearance. A gentle voice reassures the terrified Cuckoo that she has finally been brought to safety. The scarred man examines the magical book, his expression shifting from confusion to a cold, greedy fascination. A startled "ah" escapes Cuckoo as she tumbles through a shimmering, star-filled cosmic expanse. Her descent continues through a soft pink haze as she falls toward an unknown, magical destination. Cuckoo lands gracefully amidst a sprawling meadow filled with vibrant, glowing purple and pink flowers. Rubbing her head after a painful ouch, the girl notices several small spirits watching her with curious squeaks. Two adorable spirits peek through the tall grass, their large eyes filled with wonder as they squeak again. A storybook montage reflects on the siblings' bond and the diverse inhabitants of the fairy world. Cuckoo is depicted as a radiant fairy princess, leading a joyful army of fluffy, round spirit companions. Still in her human form, the girl stands in the field and wonders where she has been taken. A mystical presence welcomes Cuckoo to the spiritual world, confirming her arrival in another dimension. The Phoenix Fairy appears in its adorable baby form, urging Cuckoo to begin her rescue mission. Excited by the creature's cuteness, Cuckoo's eyes sparkle with pure, starry-eyed joy and amazement. With a happy shout that it is so fluffy, she scoops up the round chick and cuddles it. The girl continues to squeeze the baby phoenix, much to the tiny guardian's visible and sweaty annoyance. Delighted by her surroundings, she cheers that all the other forest inhabitants are equally cute. The baby phoenix fairy looks flustered and irritated, clearly unaccustomed to such enthusiastic human affection. Starry-eyed and mesmerized, Cuckoo remains blissfully unaware of the tiny guardian's mounting frustration. She questions why the phoenix baby is so much larger than the other fluffy spirits in the meadow. The girl gazes around the magical field, feeling both confused and enchanted by her new surroundings. She peers closely at the chick, trying to reconcile its small. Cuckoo recalls the towering bird from earlier and asks what caused it to shrink so significantly. The baby phoenix scolds her for asking too many questions and demands she stop lifting it up. Ignoring the grumpy bird's complaints, Cuckoo beams with happiness as she keeps the guardian close. Her expression suddenly shifts to one of surprise as she senses a powerful and cold presence nearby. A tall, silver-haired man in elegant robes appears, watching the girl with a piercing, hidden gaze. Terrified, the baby phoenix recognizes the powerful intruder and shouts in shock that it has found them. The guardian warns Cuckoo to run immediately, declaring that the man has come to kill them. Overwhelmed by fear, the girl sinks to her knees as the reality of the danger sinks in. Invoking the name of their contract, the phoenix baby prepares to channel its power to fight. Golden energy erupts as the guardian manifests, while Cuckoo is shocked to find herself suddenly smaller. The silver-haired man remains unfazed, his eyes narrowing as he expresses a dark interest in the display. A notification confirms the Phoenix Fairy's fighting formation is complete, signaling the start of the battle. A sudden, powerful rustle echoes as the phoenix unleashes a massive, blinding wave of solar energy. With a casual wave of his hand, the silver-haired man effortlessly deflects the guardian's strongest attack. With a soft plop, the baby phoenix is unceremoniously knocked out of the sky and defeated. Cuckoo screams in surprise, horrified that their protector was beaten to death by a single hand. The formidable intruder stands tall, his calm demeanor hiding a terrifying and absolute power. Enveloped in the man's long shadow, Cuckoo weeps in despair as he closes in on her. Pan Wang claims Cuckoo as his chosen child while blue energy pulses from his hand. A narrative montage revisits Dewey Snack and Cuckoo's initial encounter with the fairy world. Cuckoo appears in a vision as a legendary fairy princess surrounded by her magical subjects. In the vibrant flower field, Cuckoo trembles on her knees and begs Pan Wang for mercy. The silver-haired man's expression darkens as he coldly dismisses her desperate pleas for her life. His palm crackles with intense blue lightning, signaling his intent to finish the terrified girl. Pan Wang stares down at her with a chilling smile, declaring that she must die. Overwhelmed by the imminent threat, Cuckoo can only let out a soft, broken whimper of denial. Kneeling amidst the glowing blooms, the girl weeps as she continues to beg for her survival. From the shadows of the meadow, numerous small forest spirits watch and squeak in anxious confusion. 3 tiny, round spirits peek out from the foliage, their large eyes filled with concern as they squeak. Pan Wang's attention shifts slightly as a surge of energy ripples through the air around him. More spirits emerge from through the floral landscape, their chattering voices filling the field with worried sounds. The baby phoenix fairy lies injured on the ground, coughing up blood as it looks at its companions. A tearful plant spirit huddles over the fallen phoenix, grieving for its companion and refusing to leave. Cuckoo watches the scene with a heavy heart as a spirit lets out a sad boo-hoo. The tiger-cot spirit's anger flares, and it brandishes a wooden stick to silence the weeping plant fairy. A look of utter shock washes over Cuckoo's face as she witnesses the spirit's bold defiance. Determination fills the tiger cat spirit as it prepares to charge, shouting for the others to help. With a fierce rush, the small spirit leaps toward Pan Wang, whose lightning-wielding power is legendary. The baby phoenix fairy, Nai Hu, screams in panic as the brave spirit is intercepted by their foe. Pan Wang's hand snatches the spirit out of the air, finding its attempt to attack mildly interesting. The powerful Pan Wang holds his tiny prisoner, questioning why the spirits would dare return to face him. Cuckoo weeps as she realizes the spirits have returned to danger, wondering why they would risk themselves. Hidden in the tall grass, the remaining spirits whisper in fear about their lack of magic. The captured tiger cat spirit struggles uselessly in the man's grasp, demanding to be let go. Pan Wang's gaze remains cold and unforgiving as he decides to end the spirit's resistance permanently. He begins to channel his destructive lightning attribute through his fingers directly into the small creature. Holding the trembling spirit aloft, the man prepares to unleash a fatal surge of electrical energy. The spirit is engulfed in white-hot sparks as Pan Wang mocks the vulnerability of magical creatures. A trio of tiny guardians stares in frozen horror as their companion is brutally tormented. Fragments of Cuckoo's past life and her new magical surroundings swirl together in a dizzying montage. Radiant light surrounds the pink-haired girl, hinting at her future role as a guardian of the spirits. Cuckoo stares at Pan Wang's towering figure, her heart breaking over his extreme and senseless cruelty. Two plant-like spirits flare with indignation, calling the man obnoxious as they prepare to act. A diverse group of magical creatures charges forward together, declaring their intent to fight alongside the girl. Shocked by their bravery, Cuckoo warns the spirits that Pan Wang is the world's most dangerous villain. With a dismissive laugh and a quick toss, Pan Wang flings the battered tiger cat spirit away. Nai Hu scrambles forward with a desperate catch to prevent the injured spirit from hitting the ground. Pan Wang extends his hand, summoning a massive, crackling discharge of celestial blue lightning. The brave group of spirits is blasted backward by the electrical shockwave, crying out in immense pain. Cuckoo rushes toward her fallen friends, her voice trembling as she asks if they are still alive. The black cat spirit weakly reassures her, though it lies singed and broken on the meadow floor. Tears well up in Cuckoo's eyes as she looks down at the carnage caused by the man's power. A regal, purple-haired, cat-eared woman appears to comfort the girl, promising she will never be alone again. Cuckoo cradles the tiny black cat spirit in her hands, her heart filled with sorrow and fear. A sudden, powerful whoosh echoes as a pillar of blinding lightning descends from the heavens. The cat spirit is struck by a bolt of energy as Cuckoo watches in helpless, wide-eyed terror. Pan Wang narrows his eyes, cold and annoyed by the high-pitched sounds of the spirit's suffering. The explosion of magical lightning consumes the guardians, leaving them screaming as the field erupts in blue light. Cuckoo pleads for mercy with watery eyes, begging Pan Wang to spare her and her friends. A sudden light erupts as Cuckoo shouts a desperate "Don't!" her tiny hands clutched together in terror. Pan Wang stares forward with a cold, silver-haired gaze, his expression unreadable and intimidatingly calm. Standing in the floral field, Pan Wang asks, "Don't what?" looming over the small, cowering girl. Cuckoo spreads her arms protectively, shouting for the man to stop hurting her spirit companions. The injured Nai Hu looks up in shock, recognizing the intruder's presence while coughing up blood. The tiger cat spirit stands amidst the flowers, impressed by the child's bold and capable defiance. A mental montage revisits Cuckoo's brother eating snacks and her initial journey into the fairy world. Cuckoo is envisioned as a radiant fairy princess surrounded by various joyful and magical forest creatures. Pan Wang touches his chin thoughtfully, his cold eyes gleaming with a sudden and curious interest. Looming over her in the meadow, the man asks why he should refrain from harming the spirits. Cuckoo defiantly shouts that she won't allow it, her face determined despite her small size. With a smirk, Pan Wang challenges her to explain why he should follow her orders. Feeling small and scared, Cuckoo clutches her dress and struggles to find a convincing answer. A light bulb flashes as she shouts, "Because!" desperately trying to think of a reason to survive. Cuckoo declares she is the first chosen child, standing tall amidst the flowers with desperate courage. She reasons that if she is truly the chosen one, there must be something special about her. In a panicked prayer, the girl begs God for supernatural powers to avoid being killed on the spot. Pan Wang bursts into a sudden LOL, confused and still shaking with fear. Cuckoo wonders why the powerful man is laughing at her. She briefly questions if her hidden abilities somehow defeated him, though symbols of confusion surround her head. Frustrated and helpless, she shakes her head when she realizes she cannot sense any magical power at all. Pan Wang's amusement fades as he gathers a crackling orb of blue lightning in his hands. Symbols of shock swirl around the girl as she stares at the lethal energy building before her. Naihu screams for Cuckoo to run, terrified by the overwhelming power Pan Wang is channeling. Pan Wang declares that the chosen child should die sooner, his body crackling with celestial lightning. Cuckoo weeps as a massive dash of energy crosses the field, leaving her completely defenseless. Pan Wang looks suddenly bothered, his expression reflecting an unexpected realization as he stares at her. He sends a tiny, mocking bolt of energy toward the girl, who cowers in fear. Sweat beads on his face as the silver-haired man realizes his target is far too small. He grumbles about the embarrassment of having to squat down just to hit such a tiny child. Several small plant spirits watch from the grass, their large eyes filled with concern and anxious squeaks. Cuckoo huddles in the flowers, desperately trying to pretend she belongs in this magical, dangerous world. Pan Wang sighs that it is over, his cold demeanor returning as he reaches for the girl. With a sudden pickup, he grabs Cuckoo by her dress, ignoring her startled cry of pain. Pan Wang strides through the field carrying the girl, who frantically asks where they are going. A narrative montage revisits Cuckoo's brother and her transition from the human world to the spiritual. Cuckoo appears in her radiant fairy princess form once more, hinting at her true, hidden identity. From the shadows, the tiny guardians tremble and watch the big bad guy kidnap their friend. The scene shifts to a vast blue sky where light panels float amidst the soft, wispy clouds. A majestic white castle emerges high above the clouds, surrounded by shimmering rings of magical energy. Pan Wang enters the queen's palace, carrying a struggling Cuckoo into a grand, sun-drenched hallway. The girl continues to struggle and beg for her freedom as they move deeper into the fortress. An armored fairy guard flies forward, asking if it should kill the noisy human child immediately. Cuckoo peeks from behind Pan Wang's robes, her curiosity piqued by the tiny flying guard. Enchanted by the guard's appearance, Cuckoo beams with joy and declares how cute it is. The girl pokes the guard's cheek, causing the tiny warrior to blush and fume with visible irritation. Cuckoo giggles, telling the furious little guardian it looks even more adorable when it's angry. Enraged by her disrespect, the armored fairy prepares a bolt of lightning to strike the inferior child. Enraged by the child's disrespect, the tiny armored guard draws a glowing sword, crackling with blue lightning. Still held by Pan Wang, Cuckoo panics as she notices the guard's aggressive and sudden hostile stance. Pan Wang carries the girl past the tiny warrior, who is pulled backward as he prepares to strike. A sharp cry of pain escapes Cuckoo as the guard's glowing blade accidentally nicks her soft cheek. A sudden shoo sounds as droplets of intense phoenix fire streak across the panel, alongside symbols of alarm. The tiny armored guard is shocked as fire erupts, crying out, "Help!" as the flames begin to consume him. A heavy thump sounds as the tiny warrior is overwhelmed by confusion and the heat of the fire. Collapsing to the floor, the guard screams that he's being scalded to death by the phoenix's intense fire. With a sudden bang, a hand douses the tiny guard with a surge of magical blue water to put out the flames. The guard weeps in relief, thanking Pan Wang for saving him, while Cuckoo watches in wide-eyed amazement. A look of intense concentration crosses the guard's face as the truth about the fire begins to dawn. With a flash of light, the tiny guard transforms into a full-sized, handsome armored warrior wielding a bow. Cuckoo gazes at her hand in shock, wondering how her blood could have possibly ignited the guard's sword. She stares at her palm, realizing her blood has become strangely powerful and dangerous in this magical world. Pan Wang gathers a swirling vortex of blue water magic, his expression cold as he analyzes the situation. He unleashes the magical stream onto the floor, thoroughly dousing the spot where the child's blood had spilled. Pan Wang looks ahead with a slight smirk, his silver eyes reflecting a deepening interest in Cuckoo's potential. He reflects that the power of their soul contract is far more significant than he had initially anticipated. A narrative montage revisits Cuckoo's past life with her brother and her transition into the fairy world. Cuckoo is envisioned as a radiant fairy princess, surrounded by various joyful and magical forest creatures. Pan Wang gestures dismissively, telling Cuckoo to take good care of herself as things are about to change. With a sudden throw, he drops the girl, declaring she will be ordained as a princess in 3 days. Pan Wang strides away as flower petals drift by, leaving the startled girl behind in the grand hallway. Cuckoo flails through the air, screaming in terror as she believes she is about to fall to her death. A smirk plays on Pan Wang's lips as he recalls that she is the world's first chosen child. Glowing with a soft light, he watches her fall, certain that her magical protection will keep her alive. The tall armored warrior stands confused, letting out a bewildered "eh?" as the girl tumbles past him. He quickly recovers his composure, realizing he shouldn't be nervous since the chosen child cannot die from falling. Cuckoo lands face first on the floor with a comical backward fall as the guard stands idly by. Muffled cries of "ouch" come from the floor while the guard casually whistles, ignoring the girl's obvious distress. Weeping on the ground, Cuckoo decries the cruelty of this trash fairy world and her endless misfortune. The armored warrior leans down, skeptically asking the girl if her fall actually caused her any real pain. Cuckoo looks up with teary, sparkling eyes, repeatedly whimpering that her body hurts very much. Overwhelmed by her cuteness, the warrior transforms back into his tiny, adorable miniature form with a sudden pop. Cuckoo's sorrow vanishes instantly as she beams with joy, captivated by the guard's tiny and adorable appearance. Forgetting her pain, Cuckoo begins affectionately rubbing the tiny guard's head like he is a small pet. She tells him he is absolutely adorable, causing the tiny warrior to blush and fume with visible irritation. The guard tells her not to be rude while blushing, though Cuckoo simply continues to smile happily. He transforms back into his tall form, telling her to get up and follow him to her destination. Cuckoo follows the tall guard closely, her face set in a sneaky and determined expression. A sudden spit sounds as she sticks her tongue out, plotting to make him hate her eventually. The tall guard tells her to hurry up, claiming he has no time to waste on a child.
Cuckoo struggles to stand up, still grumbling about the guard's dismissive and cold attitude.
Pan Wang watches from the side, mocking the girl's slow progress and blaming it on her short stature.
He muses that a normal human would have broken bones, yet she remains completely unharmed after the fall.
Cuckoo shouts a sharp retort about the men in his world, her face flushing with indignation. Pan Wang touches his chin thoughtfully, his unreadable gaze following the girl as she follows her new guide. He considers a more extreme test, wondering if he should throw her into the water to see if she drowns. A narrative montage revisits Cuckoo's past life with her brother and her transition into the fairy world. Cuckoo is envisioned as a radiant fairy princess, surrounded by various joyful and magical forest creatures. Sunlight streams through grand palace arches, signaling a peaceful morning in the royal fairy residence. An ornate white headboard framed by gold-leafed wallpaper marks the transition into the princess's private chambers. Cuckoo lies awake on the massive bed, looking tiny and lost amidst the overwhelming luxury. Reflecting on her first month, Cuckoo laments the constant pressure of learning rigid royal princess etiquette. Maids hover over the girl, reprimanding her for losing face while she tries to enjoy a snack. Cuckoo protests the constant wardrobe changes, her face flushed with the annoyance of being a living doll. The purple-haired maid insists that royal propriety forbids wearing the same dress for breakfast and dinner. Sinking back into the pillows, Cuckoo stares at the ceiling, her eyes sparkling with pure, unadulterated boredom. A wave of apathy washes over her as she finds her daily routine utterly unexciting and repetitive. The maids return to the bedside, holding a new outfit and urging the girl to get ready immediately. Cuckoo points in disbelief at a restrictive pink waist belt, sensing a new kind of royal discomfort. The pink-haired maid beams while explaining that the belt is essential for the dress to look beautiful. Horrified, the 3-year-old child argues that she is far too young to be subjected to such constraints. Both maids remain cheerful yet unyielding, claiming that the uncomfortable garment is compulsory for her status. Outside the castle, voices command the princess to hold her stomach in as the fitting process begins. Cuckoo strains and flails, struggling to cooperate as the maids work to tighten her new attire. A sharp intake of the purple-haired maid delivers a crushing blow, declaring Cuckoo too fat for more than 3 rice spoons. Shocked and famished, the little girl can hardly believe she is being denied a full meal. A sudden, sharp crack sounds as the maids pull the laces tight, finalizing the restrictive, uncomfortable fit. The pink-haired maid smiles with relief, wiping sweat away after completing the difficult royal transformation. The purple-haired maid confirms the tiny portion size, reinforcing the rigid standards expected of a fairy princess. Holding up a large gilded mirror, the pink-haired maid invites the girl to see her finished reflection. Standing before the glass, the maids admire their handiwork, while the princess stares back in stunned silence. Cuckoo gazes at herself, looking like a delicate porcelain doll in her elaborate, multi-layered pink gown. Tears well in her eyes as Cuckoo decries the pathetic nature of this restrictive fairy world. Clutching her dress, she decides she cannot be bound here and begins planning a desperate escape. The maids continue to gush over her beauty, entirely unaware of the girl's growing resentment and sadness. Cuckoo looks away, her mind racing with thoughts of running away from her oppressive royal life. A narrative montage revisits her past life and various magical creatures, highlighting her unique hidden fairy identity. Cuckoo appears as a radiant princess surrounded by spirits, reflecting her true potential in this world. The purple-haired maid looks on with a soft, helpful expression, sensing the princess's underlying frustration. Attempting to find a way out, Cuckoo announces she just wants to go for a walk. She puffs out her chest, pretending to be fierce while demanding her rights as a royal princess. Terrified by her outburst, the maids immediately prostrate themselves and beg for the girl's pardon. The purple-haired maid looks up pleadingly, asking if they can at least accompany her for protection. Cuckoo remains stubbornly defiant, huffing with annoyance as she tries to maintain her authoritative stance. The maids eventually give in, warning that she must return soon to dine with Pan Wang. Beaming with joy, the girl promises to return quickly and prepares to dash out the door. A sudden shoo sounds as Cuckoo's skirt flutters, her small frame vanishing toward the open garden. Gasping for air, the girl clutches her waist. Finding the restrictive dress nearly impossible to move in. Heavy panting echoes through the serene fairy castle garden as Cuckoo struggles against her suffocating clothing. She reaches behind her back, desperately fumbling with the large yellow bow that holds her corset tight. With intense concentration, Cuckoo tries to remove the garment so she can finally breathe freely. A voice from behind suddenly asks what she is doing, catching the girl completely off guard. Cuckoo jumps in fright, her eyes widening as a sudden startle takes hold of her. Turning slowly, the girl looks back with panic, her hand held to her chest in shock. A sudden step-on sounds as her foot catches on her gown, sending her off balance. With a loud "ah" and a heavy fall, the princess collapses face first onto the garden floor. Pan Wang watches with a cold smirk, remarking that he will continue her etiquette lessons for another month. Cuckoo looks back in her pink dress, innocently addressing the silver-haired man as her king-father. Pan Wang stares back with a bewildered expression as a sea of question marks fills the air around him. Pan Wang lifts the girl by the back of her dress, causing her to let out a startled cry. Cuckoo gazes up at him with shimmering eyes, questioning if her royal adoption makes him her new father. Transformed into a tiny chibi form, Pan Wang fumes with irritation while scolding the girl for her bold words. He leans in close, clarifying with a stern look that he is only 200 years old. Stunned by his age, Cuckoo can only repeat the number while looking completely lost in thought. The young princess poses with a sweet, radiant smile, trying to use her charm to disarm the grumpy king. Pan Wang holds her up like a doll, skeptical of the mismatch between her mind and her 3-year-old body. He grumbles about the contract's side effects, his face darkening with annoyance as he looks at the small child. A colorful montage depicts Cuckoo's transition into this magical world, alongside various adorable forest spirits and creatures. Envisioned as a true fairy princess, Cuckoo glows with magical light while surrounded by her tiny spirit companions. Pan Wang waves her off dismissively, telling her to take good care of herself as things begin to change. With a sudden, forceful throw, he declares she will be officially ordained as a royal princess in 3 days. Pan Wang strides away through drifting flower petals, leaving the girl behind in the wake of his sudden exit. A cold smirk plays on his lips as he reflects on her status as the world's very first chosen child. Looking back over his shoulder, he remains confident that her magical protection will prevent any fatal injuries from falling. The tall, armored warrior stands frozen in confusion as the girl suddenly tumbles past him through the air. He quickly brushes off his worry, remembering that the chosen child is effectively immune to death by falling. Cuckoo experiences a comical backward fall, crashing onto the stone floor, while the guard stands idly by. A muffled "ouch" comes from the girl as the guard casually whistles, ignoring her obvious physical distress. Weeping on the ground, Cuckoo laments her misfortune in what she describes as a trash fairy world. The armored warrior leans down skeptically, asking the crying girl if her fall actually caused her any real pain. Cuckoo whimpers that it hurts very much, her eyes sparkling with tears as she looks up at him. Overcome by her cuteness, the warrior suddenly reverts to his tiny, adorable miniature form with a distinct pop. Cuckoo's sadness evaporates instantly as she beams with joy, completely captivated by the guard's tiny new appearance. Forgetting her injuries, the girl begins affectionately rubbing the tiny guard's head like he is a small pet. She gushes over how cute he is, causing the tiny warrior to blush and fume with visible embarrassment. Blushing deeply, the guard warns her not to be rude while she continues to smile at him happily. He transforms back into his tall form and commands her to get up and follow him immediately. Cuckoo follows closely behind the guard, though her expression has shifted into something far more sneaky and determined. Sticking her tongue out with a quick spit, she secretly plots to make him hate her eventually. The guard remains dismissive, claiming he has far too many important duties to waste time on a child. Cuckoo struggles to stand up, her small frame trembling as she grumbles about the guard's cold attitude. Pan Wang watches the scene from afar, mocking the girl's slow progress and blaming it on her short stature. He muses that while she survived, a normal human would have certainly broken bones from such a height. Cuckoo shouts a sharp retort about the men in his world, her face flushing with pure indignation. Pan Wang touches his chin thoughtfully, his gaze following the girl as he considers an even harsher trial. He considers a more extreme test, wondering if he should throw her into the water to see if she drowns. A narrative montage revisits her radiant fairy identity, highlighting her potential as a princess among magical spirits. The tiny guard looks on with a surprised expression, wondering if the princess has actually fallen into the water. He cries out for her and begins to transform, surrounded by a swirling vortex of blue magical energy. Reverting to his full size, the warrior reaches out with determination, intent on rescuing the struggling girl. A heavy slosh sounds as the guard and Cuckoo are both submerged in the garden's water. A sudden splash erupts nearby while Pan Wang sits calmly, enjoying a cup of tea in the garden. The armored warrior holds the dripping wet princess, urging her to remain patient as he secures her safety.
Pan Wang looks on with an annoyed scowl, asking the guard if he intended to drown alongside the girl.
Startled by the king's presence, the guard looks back with a shocked expression, his eyes wide with fear. The warrior stands frozen in total confusion as a fresh wave of question marks fills the air around him. Pan Wang's face flushes with anger as he demands to know why the guard is still lingering there. The sun-like spirit suddenly dives away with a loud splash as it heads toward the garden water. Beneath the surface, Cuckoo continues her descent, while a small hand reaches up through the blue depths. Pan Wang watches from the shore as the tiny spirit speeds away toward the distant castle towers. Hidden within the dense shrubbery, the two spirits remain in hiding while observing the guard's sudden disappearance. The spirits pause for a brief moment of realization as they continue their secret watch from the bushes. A wave of intense worry washes over the small creatures as they fear the princess might be in danger. The sun-like spirit pleads for trust in the contract, hoping their magical bond will protect the girl. The cat-like spirit remains skeptical, staring intensely while lamenting the harsh, unforgiving nature of their current reality. Comically overwhelmed, Cuckoo flails in the water, her eyes rolling back as she struggles to stay afloat. A frantic bubbling sounds as the princess sinks below the surface, leaving only her hair visible on the water. Sitting comfortably with his tea, Pan Wang remains disturbingly calm, noting the complete lack of movement in the garden. The two spirits lock eyes with newfound determination, their expressions hardening as they prepare to take action. Driven by guilt and concern, the spirits resolve that they cannot allow the princess to suffer because of them. Pan Wang looks back with a knowing smirk, confidently asserting that he is not yet too late to intervene. A sudden disappear sounds as the king's teacup vanishes in magic, signifying his readiness to finally take action. Without a second glance, Pan Wang strides toward the garden path, leaving the scene of the accident behind. Startled by a sudden movement, the cat spirit lets out an "Aya" while peeking through the garden foliage. Both spirits suddenly jump out from the bushes, racing toward the water in a desperate attempt to help. They halt by the water's edge, panic setting in as they realize they are currently devoid of magic. A narrative montage revisits various moments, including a pink-haired boy enjoying a meal and the group together. Cuckoo appears in her princess glory, surrounded by a multitude of magical forest spirits and companions. A loud plop echoes through the garden as a pink-haired boy dives headfirst into the pond to help.
Caught off guard, the cat spirit looks on with a startled expression, questioning the identity of the rescuer.
The sun spirit ponders if the newcomer is the same girl who once gathered firewood in the forest. Determined to help, the boy reaches out through the water, his hands straining to find the drowning princess. Cuckoo floats aimlessly in the water, her wide eyes reflecting her shock as she loses consciousness. The pink-haired boy swims gracefully toward her, appearing like a guardian angel sent to retrieve her. He pushes forward with all his strength, knowing that time is running out for the small princess. A heavy splash. The spirits rush to the bank, calling out in excitement as they witness the successful rescue. The sun spirit watches with wide, hopeful eyes, mesmerized by the boy's sudden appearance and heroic actions. Urging for speed, the cat spirit commands them to jump into the water to assist the boy. A magical sprinkle sounds as the cat spirit activates a small aura of light while floating near the surface. Safe on dry land, the boy carefully tends to the unconscious Cuckoo while the spirits watch. The cat spirit declares that saving a drowning child is a simple task for beings of their nature. With a sharp withdraw command, the spirit uses its magic to help Cuckoo expel the water. The boy wipes his brow in relief, marveling at the girl's luck and expressing his joy. He reflects on his lonely journey, noting that this is the first time he has met a peer. Concerned for their health, the cat spirit offers to use its abilities to quickly dry their soaked clothing. The boy politely declines the help, confidently asserting that his constitution is strong enough to handle the cold. The cat spirit ignores his refusal and insists on focusing its drying efforts on the delicate princess. Scratching his chin, the boy shares a strange piece of advice from his sister about the fragility of girls. The sun spirit listens with rapt attention, its eyes shimmering as it processes the boy's unusual explanation. Recalling a vision of the boy eating, the sun spirit suddenly questions if he is the child it remembers. Intrigued by the connection, the cat spirit asks the boy if he and the sun spirit are acquainted. The sun spirit clarifies that the boy has signed a contract, though his presence here remains a mystery.
A wave of excitement washes over the cat spirit as it considers the implications of meeting another special human.
With a quick dash, the cat spirit approaches the boy and asks if he is also a chosen child. It continues to pry, questioning whether the boy has made magical deals with any other mysterious entities. The boy stares back with a confused expression, completely unable to understand what the spirit means by deals. A mental gallery of memories flashes by, featuring the pink-haired boy's quiet life and the spirit's shared past. Princess Cuckoo radiates magical energy, surrounded by an adoring crowd of whimsical forest spirits and magical companions. Safe on land, the spirits watch as the soaked princess and the pink-haired boy recover from their dip. A sudden, sharp realization strikes as a hand clutches a wet cloth, crying out in alarm at the situation. Hiding behind a massive tree, the boy worries about being tactile while the shivering princess rests beside him. Fearing punishment, the pink-haired boy apologizes and dashes away, leaving the sun spirit behind in a panic.
The purple cat spirit chases after the boy, demanding to know the details of his mysterious magical contract.
Left alone, the sun spirit ponders the impossibility of entering this world without some form of magical agreement. A look of intense focus crosses the sun spirit's face as it contemplates the nature of their current reality. Hai Tai discovers the princess by the tree and calls out for Chiang Wei to join her quickly.
Shock washes over the purple-haired woman as she takes in the sight of the unconscious, dripping wet princess.
Indignation flares as the sun spirit reacts with shock to being mistaken for a common, lowly farm hen. Bright light erupts as the spirit reveals its true, majestic identity as the powerful phoenix fairy. A sudden bam sounds as Hai Tai's hand strikes the spirit, causing it to let out a pained squeak.
Pinning the spirit to the grass, the woman remains oblivious to its true power while scolding its behavior.
Chiang Wei arrives at the scene, checking in with Hai Tai about the condition of the found princess. Misinterpreting the situation, Hai Tai dismissively claims the wet princess is merely taking a peaceful nap. Holding the sun spirit by its wings, Hai Tai excitedly suggests they cook the chicken for their evening stew. Overjoyed by the prospect of a free meal, the chibi maid beams while clutching her struggling prize. Chiang Wei remains skeptical, suspecting the soaking wet princess was actually rescued from a near drowning. Watching Hai Tai walk away, Chiang Wei silently criticizes her companion's lack of awareness regarding the girl's health. With a cheerful skip, Hai Tai picks up the princess and carries her away alongside their supposed supper. Chiang Wei watches them go, her expression troubled as she thinks about the presence of the guards nearby. Surveying the garden, Chiang Wei notes the proximity of the royal guards and the risk they face. The scene shifts to the garden pond as Chiang Wei reflects on the day's strange and dangerous events. Determination hardens Chiang Wei's gaze as she decides she must uncover the truth behind the king's actions. Disbelief colors her face as she processes the shocking claim that the king intended to harm the princess. The tiny guard spirit confirms her fears, recounting how the king scolded him for attempting a rescue. With a somber nod, the armored spirit validates that the king truly meant for the girl to drown. Memories of the girl's life as a chosen child and her small companions flicker through the air. Cuckoo's identity as a princess of the forest spirits is reaffirmed in a radiant, magical display. A painful arg escapes as Cuckoo begins to shrink, her body engulfed in a chaotic swirl of energy. Staring at her small hands, the girl realizes she is rapidly turning into an even younger child. The shrinking process continues relentlessly. Leaving trapped in Hai Tai's grasp, the sun spirit struggles violently while emitting a high-pitched, desperate squeak. A mighty whoosh echoes as the spirit finally breaks free, transforming into a massive, flaming phoenix. The flames subside to reveal the spirit's human form, a tall, armored warrior known as the Phoenix Fairy. Hai Tai stumbles backward in absolute terror, realizing the chicken she caught is actually a divine being. Fear takes root in the maid's heart as she realizes she was planning to eat a legendary creature. Looking down with cold disdain, the Phoenix Fairy questions the girl's suicidal desire to consume her. A brutal bam sounds as the warrior seizes Hai Tai by the throat, pinning her against the wall. With eyes full of murderous intent, the Phoenix Fairy threatens the terrified woman for her extreme insolence. Gasping for breath, Hai Tai pleads for mercy from the powerful being currently crushing her airway. From the bed, baby Cuckoo lets out a tearful wah as she begs the two to stop fighting. Desperate for attention, the infant princess crawls across the blankets while crying out for the fighting to end. Tears stream down baby Cuckoo's face as she experiences the overwhelming stress of the violent confrontation. Regret instantly replaces the warrior's anger as she realizes her impulsive actions have deeply upset the small child. With a series of coughs, Hai Tai is released, collapsing as she struggles to regain her composure and breath. The Phoenix Fairy realizes that her powerful magic is causing the princess to regress into an infant. To save the girl, the warrior quickly shrinks back into her small sun spirit form with a sudden whoosh. The bright sun illuminates a vast, cloud-streaked blue sky, signaling a sudden shift in the narrative. Amidst a snowy mountain range, a hand shakes a glowing glass of water while calling out to a sister. The silver-haired man stands over his sister's glass coffin, noting her 1,000-year reign has finally reached its end. Looming over the unconscious woman, the man demands she take the initiative to pass her throne to him. His expression hardens as he asserts his right to rule, emphasizing that he is her own blood brother. He reaches out with a soft touch, his hand hovering over the glass coffin as his sister remains asleep. Calling her a cold-hearted woman, he watches a single drop of liquid fall as he maintains his vigil. Transforming into a frustrated chibi, the man greedily drinks while questioning why the throne hasn't been given to him. A mental gallery revisits the pink-haired boy eating, the cat spirits, and the group's shared magical history. Princess Cuckoo radiates divine light, surrounded by her loyal group of whimsical forest spirits and magical companions. A sharp swish sounds as the man senses a disturbance, pausing mid-stride with a look of sudden intrigue. He ponders if the phoenix has finally returned to her human form after being dormant for so long. Smirking, the man guesses that someone has finally managed to annoy the arrogant and temperamental Phoenix Fairy. He mocks his sister's legacy, claiming that the 12 fairies she raised are all completely useless and weak. He criticizes the Guardian's volatile tempers and strange personality traits, dismissing them as a collective nuisance. Angry veins pop as he questions why his sleeping sister continues to protect such rubbish guardians. He falls silent, his hand resting on his belt as he calculates his next move against the princess. Looking down at his boots, he realizes the little princess lacks the strength to maintain her adult form. Turning away, he notes she is vulnerable, as she can only sustain her powerful transformation for 3 seconds. A sinister smile appears as he concludes that destroying the 12 fairies will be an effortless task for him. With a quick takes-off sound, the man discards his heavy fur cloak and prepares to confront the child. Inside Lin Kuo-Kuo's room, the purple-haired maid kneels by the bed, questioning if the baby is the princess. The sun spirit watches as Hai Tai stares intensely, pleading for the child to confirm her royal identity. Baby Cuckoo lets out a tearful ooh-ah while privately lamenting that her regression has stolen her voice. The sun spirit is struck with shock, amazed that the maid can actually understand the baby's frustrated cries. Reaching out with a gentle caress, the spirit reassures the princess that her magical energy has been returned. Despite the reassurance, the infant cries out, terrified she might never regain her 13-year-old form. Looking on with a smile, the purple-haired maid marvels at how cute the infant princess appears. An anxious aura surrounds the baby as she fears she will be stuck in this tiny body forever. The sun spirit floats nearby as the baby realizes the spirit might be her biggest danger right now. With a sudden rush over, the maid lunges toward the bed to scoop up the crying child. Chiang Wei enters the room and warns the maid that the baby's fragile spine could break if mishandled. A final montage features the pink-haired boy and the magical spirits, reflecting on their strange and perilous journey.